You heard this?
Is that your alarm?
The alarm, bro. Yeah, that's the fifth in case alarm, bro.
Yeah. Cool. Fuck, I don't know how to type, motherfuckers. Where the fuck I am? Stop this shit, bruh. Yeah, I am. Here I am. Rock you like a hurricane.
Every time I listen to that song, or I heard it somewhere, it remembers me of Supernatural every time the series.
Supernatural, really? I haven't watched that.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't? What?
No, I know the song because my dad always played. My dad played a lot of rock and metal when we were younger.
Nice.
I used to be a metalhead when I was younger.
Dude, seriously. Show me some if we are real chill.
I mean, I have a fucking electric guitar and an acoustic guitar, and I used to play.
Can you
it.
play that shit? Crazy, like fast stuff?
No, I can't anymore. I used to be decent at it, but now I'm just ass. I haven't done it in years. I prefer the acoustic guitar though. But my yeah, my acoustic guitar I prefer it, but my electric guitar is fucking juiced, man. I have like this crazy, big, massive fucking Vox. What is it called?
You went crazy, bro.
What is it called? The fucking thing that you plug your guitar in?
Shut the fuck up!
Amplifier? Amplifier, yeah, the massive one. And I have a fucking gothic styled Epiphone. Fucking sick guitar, dude. It looks so fucking sick. It's like full black and it has like spaces in Roman numbers. It's fucking cool. There's like a skull and shit. It's really cool. Divine thing.
Never played guitar in my life. Mandy, did you?
Do I look at someone that can play the guitar?
Bro, you knew exactly what he asked for. I know.
Yeah, that's because
Yes,
sometimes I actually know how to speak English here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to speak English. Nah, but the
Sounded
guitar
like
is
you were
cool.
ready, dude.
The
You were
guitar is
ready
cool
to
as
talk about it.
shit. 100% cool as shit, man. Come on, I said go. You gonna jump us today, man? Or maybe tomorrow? Maybe next year?
So yesterday you told me I shouldn't hot drop because you don't want to die off drop all
So
the time.
you're not gonna hot drop there, but you're gonna hot drop us here, right?
What the fuck, dude? My
Right.
monitor is 60 FPS.
FPS?
Yeah, hertz.
Hurts, you mean?
Did yesterday for 60 FPS probably, bro.
Wait, what? My monitor is 60 hertz.
Change it
Oh,
now.
no.
Step up.
Yo, go here, bro. Let's not fucking go. Oh, shit. There's a team here. Let's fight him.
Alright, wait, she's like, let me find the 60 then. I'm out of here.
He's up top above me. It's a Loba. She can blow me. Oh, he's spitting.
Holy shit, this is not 60, this is 30. Oh my god.
Good start.
Yeah, this is 30 FPS. This is not even 60, dude.
Fuck you, bitch.
You shoot right side, right? Just
He's
crawl
on
up these
top.
motherfuckers. Throw me my climb up. Green shit when I'm alone.
Think a hard stuck. Smoke. Roll smoke in the lobby. Where's his teammate?
This way. Holy shit, dude.
Oh, they're running though. These motherfuckers don't want no heat.
Nah, the big one.
They're literally right in front of us here. That's a piqué. I need this. Oh, you got the sandwich. Just use your bubble, man.
Under okay, I already used it.
How do you use it?
Oh my god.
Holy shit, it went flying.
This was like,
My dog is just fucking going off, dude. Croatian style in the background.
It's 240. What?
I don't know.
Feels
Maybe-
bad. Oh no.
Maybe game restart. PC restart.
Okay, it looks like 240 now.
It
Wait.
does? Or maybe it was like a bug. Yeah.
Yeah, it's back. Oh my god. That felt like dog shit. That was not even 60. That was 30 hertz or some shit.
Oh,
Holy,
my
every time I turned around, it was like a slideshow.
Oh shit. The shit ass.
There.
Hey, no one's
That was
here.
good.
We go towards energy. We want
We're
people.
the only guys on this map.
Motherfuckers die here. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Expressway. What's up, chat? How you guys doing? I know
I turn
I
off my
I've
music.
been
and
neglecting you, motherfuckers.
Not music,
Listen,
what's
what's
called?
up? How you guys doing?
sound and everything.
What's up, Flau? What's up,
Yeah.
Aaron? Good morning, good evening, good day.
60%, dude.
What's up, Ming?
I'm waiting for one cable, Mandy, and then I'm gonna be Alex Andy too.
Want me to help you with the stuff?
Yeah, if it comes, if I need help, I will ask, bro. I will let you know.
It's
Good
super
Marco.
easy. I can literally job and
Yeah.
call
We
for
have
like
two
10
this
minutes
year.
and it's done.
I watched also videos.
Alright, good.
That's why I
Alright.
figured out I need 2 and shit.
Yeah,
It's your birthday, happy birthday,
pretty
Flau.
Best way to do it. It's the best way to do it, I
Hope
think.
you have a good birthday. Thank you, Yaki. AFA. They fucking rolling and smoking over there, and I'm in. I'm in. Alright, I just did that.
No, you come. Upper, come to me.
We're flying? Let's go. I like that. Man, they're just chilling there.
Yeah, I need to show my dad something real quick.
I kinda wanna go from here. Is that an Ash? That's an Ashhold.
That's
I accidentally
very-
flanked this whole team, dude. I accidentally died instantly, dude. Cool.
Sipping over?
Right. That was, yeah.
the other team's help. The other team is
That
helping
was
them,
sick.
bro.
They're gonna tip on.
Alright. Oh, it's a control, but that makes sense. That makes perfect sense why this guy just fucking beat my ass like that.
Don't worry about it. Just look at me.
You don't
Doing
even
me
have
awesome
a,
magic
you
right now.
healed. You haven't even healed your armor, man. Then what magic are you
Oh yeah,
working?
true. Oh. So sick.
That's the guy. That's the beamer, boy. Wait, both people that shot at you got knocked. They're raising. What?
Don't ask me.
Check yourself if you wreck yourself. Get my banner twice. Yeah. He's going X Games mode. Val cooled out, dude. That guy's a solo, no? He is. Not one of the map!
Don't fucking shoot him, dude. Pepe Julian.
Anti, dude. Oh.
I knew you were gonna go off the
One.
map, dude.
He's won, dude. I should have jumped one more time. I forgot to jump.
I fucking knew you were going off the map, dude. I've seen it, dude. I've seen the greed.
Bro, you need Valkyrie, bro. You wanna play Valkyrie in Tony today?
No, dude.
Do you go crazy with it?
What's
Oh
up,
my
what's up,
god,
Marcus?
dude. That would have been wicked
can't-
sick. Epic poggers.
My
right
dog
there.
is having an argument with me here.
Lying, dude. Nice. Got the 2 banners. Armor swap.
Yeah, dude. It happens.
Clean, clean.
Dude, that was a lucky dude.
Dude, it's
Yep.
so nice outside, bro. Holy shit.
Dude, yeah, it's 14
Yeah.
degrees Celsius in Denmark right now. It's fucking crazy. I was
How much?
outside with
Yeah.
shorts. I was outside with 14. I was out with shorts and everything, dude.
It's 20 here, bro, and it's fucking sunny as hell. There's flowers flying everywhere. It's spring, baby.
Taishin, do you have the thing on, by the
What's
way?
up, Maxer?
You're a webcam mic.
What's up, Win?
Webcam mic? No
I think
way.
you win.
I think so.
No.
No, it's my. It's no. It's my wave mic, bro. Maybe it's dog shit.
Sounds good
I
to
know.
me on Discord.
Yeah, Mandy's just dumb, dude.
What's up, Timo? Oh, he's got Mandy brain, dude. Chill. My dogs really want to be part of the stream, huh?
Oh my god. Yeah, pollen's gonna go crazy soon, dude. My pollen allergy is fucking nuts. I don't know how it happened. The last year, I just fucking started developing that shit. Never had it before, and suddenly I started sneezing like a motherfucker as soon as I get close to a tree, dude.
I don't have
That's
pollen.
fucking insane.
What I have
random,
is
dude.
I have a fucking if sun shines into my face, I will sneeze. That's what I got.
Oh my
If
god.
it shines in my face, I'll go straight sneezing. There's this one spot in our other house where whenever I get there and I walk through the same part, I sneeze every single time at the same spot. Every single time, so my body's trained. Dude, is this dog getting closer to the window? Hey! Hey!
This shit is big and it's too real. Fuck one dose, I need 2 pills, 2 pills. Dude, eat it! RPR.
They're both barking now.
Yeah. He's talking.
He's talking, yeah.
Hey, shut the fuck up, dude.
I'm back.
Red Song 01
Shut up.
Joe
You're talking to a dog?
subscribed for 5
Yeah.
months. Let's go.
What is it saying?
Boots.
Nothing, dude. Absolutely nothing.
Is it shouting?
Yeah, he's fucking screaming at me.
Nice.
Kai said thank you for us. Welcome back.
Oof. Oof. I think I need to go to the dentist in 3 days when we're done with the attorney.
Why?
I ate a kebab today and I bit down. And I had a peppercorn that did not break when I bit into it, and now my teeth hurts.
You broke your teeth on it?
I don't know. But the left side hurts. 2 of my
Could
teeth
be.
hurt.
Could be just sore.
Yeah.
One thing you.
I got retarded.
Man, this dog not listening at all, man. She's back. You got late landed on Tashin
Well,
on some freaky shit.
the dogs can get him.
Blue down here. Grade 70 blue. Yeah, fuck back, bitch. What you gonna do? I got a RE and a sentinel. Life's good.
Yo, switch to wingman. Give me senti.
Fuck yeah, baby. Here's I only have 8 shots there, but pull up.
Fucking love senti in this shit.
So deep, put her ass to sleep. More snap ammo. These bats have 2. Mind this fucking smoking dick over
Yeah,
here.
give me one.
And then choose a medkit. Bat. Medkit. Man, are you smoking dick still or what?
What?
What are you doing?
I have a super long hair, my...
What do you not have today?
Leave him, bro. Leave him
Super
alone.
long hair in the eye. Fucking peppercorn teeth. White armor ash.
They're sitting out behind you guys. Under.
Yes, they are. Let's smoke them.
Push him, push him, push him. I'll go down.
Doing 0 on him. Really going crazy right now.
Coming out.
Oh shit, in my fucking face. Headshot.
70. Boink.
Boink.
I hit her on the head.
On the schnauzer.
He broke his schnauzer.
Above us.
They're coming, they're coming.
Pushing.
Throw me out here, come.
Wait, 45 blue.
Right close. Peeking
Back
out.
the horizon.
Knocked. 32 left.
25. God, we're good. We're talented. And sexy. And my dog's still barking.
regardless.
Wait, what did you say? His voice cracked?
I'm still rich regardless, dude. I'm saying.
I watched the VOD back again. Dude, Manny, Massive was slapping yesterday, huh?
That's master plan of the world.
No crack.
Dude, that
Running
shit was
comes well.
fucking smacking, dude.
Yeah.
That shit was busting. Just how this dog's busting my fucking ears out right now. Do I really need to go out there and bring her home? Like, do I have to do this shit? Let's fucking carry her home again? What's up, baby?
Come to the whip, it's time to do a drive-by, dude.
Is that a 6-time scope? Wait. No.
Okay.
Alright, go.
Happy
Hey
afternoon.
guys,
time.
100 bits, take it in.
Good shit.
I'll slam with the
Okay,
Peter. I'm
let's
even
go.
more proud of the fact that I'll slam with the Peter, dude.
Yeah, that was
Secret
great.
Surfer. I
I've
don't
never
say.
seen a person in my life play Peter in a tourney, dude.
No one here,
Oh,
motherfuckers.
That's also the
Woo,
last person
we're
in the world that's
drifting!
gonna play that shit.
That was
Yeah,
sick!
dude. That was some Tokyo drift shit.
Dude! Go back, get back in. We're not fucking staying here. Let's go. What's up, Nick? What's up, Kuda? Doing good, man. How are you? Show the doggo to us? Fuck no. She's outside. I can't throw the. What do you mean? Throw the webcam out the window?
I hear people over here. I think.
I smell people everywhere, dude. Stinks.
You smell them? You smell like shit?
Yeah. Smell like shit. Morning, Steffi.
They're up here. Jump out! They were here.
No, I'm the new driver. You're fucking. Your snows are sucking. Go back. Go turbine. Let's go. This is all unloaded. We're not going here.
Great.
Zeta is going to do a pistol only challenge in Apex on Monday. Wow, that's hard. Just take 2 wingmans.
What are they doing?
Pistol only challenge. Motherfucker,
Oh.
just pick up wingmans. You win.
Yeah, easy. Northwest, let's go.
Kanzen, come on. What's in that bitch?
Purple armor.
Nice.
Ass. They're fighting though. Let's go. Time to move. Time to schmoo. I got 420 damage. I'm not shooting a single person.
Alright, 275.
200 to...
Yeah, Steffi. Zeta is fucking an FPS junkie and she's cute. I really like her.
You're playing Ash. Where are people dying?
I'm gonna make Ollie let me befriend her, you know?
You guys wanna go ham?
We're gonna.
Boost?
Oh, you fucking
I
dying,
want-
I'm dying, I'm dying.
Boost into them? Boost into them?
Yeah.
We boost our guy? Yeah, our guy.
Go down, go down. 490 on one, fucking 45 on the other one. Wait, I'm on a leash, I'm on a leash.
Locked.
90 crack, great, dead. Oh, last guy on me, fucking sucking my ass, dude. He sucked my ass completely. The whole thing, dude. The whole shebang. Can I get a yeah? Nice. Yeah. Dominance. That Ray got
What
fucking
you
shit
knowledge
on.
and stuff?
That Ray didn't get to play the game because I am a fucking god of wingman.
The only thing she did was queuing. Yeah, on the side.
God, it's fucking good juice, man.
They're smoking us here.
Good juice is it?
Is this Shivam frame per cell per second?
Shivam Patalik.
You,
Holy shit, it's what?
I got angle them.
88 on the...
Oh,
Alright, I'm
dude,
fucking
28
sucking.
only. That was so bad. Dog one. Take the thing. Take the portal.
I ain't taking shit. $45.
55.
Dude, that 500 grapple into my armor star.
I don't have a single bat.
I got 5.
I had
dropped
0. I had 0 the entire game, dude.
That's a fucking new thing for you, dude. How much do you have now?
3. I'm good.
Here, take another one so you can vote out for. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Who's next? Someone died here 60 seconds ago. Let's go towards it. Get the fucking whip.
Whoopsie.
Where's the whip?
I'm bringing it. I'm bringing it. I got
Yeah,
it.
bring it. I'm walking. You check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Smoking the salsa.
Is it
Smoking the
6 p.m.
salsa.
today?
And
Yeah.
fit to the mata.
Chat, it's 6 p.m. every single day for the next 4 days.
Can't believe we got 4 more days.
Yeah, this is just the start. You gotta keep being consistent. That's all we gotta do. Consistency. Consistently fuck him in the ass.
What's that? Sniper scope?
They were up here, by the way. Go. They're there still. I still see them. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Come on, go up. Let's go.
Never mind this way.
They're on the bottom floor. Look, I'm jumping out.
Throw me up so we got hecklers.
41 purple, 90 purple. I don't know what is bloodhound.
Fight 2 of them.
88 on flash.
I cracked all 3 of them.
Fucking fuse, bitch.
Watch out. What's the fuse left there?
Dead fuse.
63 on that
There's
guy.
another
Bro.
one.
10 on that
Got
guy?
him, got him, got him. I'm gonna go to this.
Let's do that.
He's in the building. Actually, I can't.
Yeah, I'll kill him. No, just do it. Just do it. Rest.
Here's a fucking angle, motherfucker.
No, there's no angle.
What do you mean no angle? You just shot at me.
Yeah, but there's no angle now. I got him under control.
What's up, Xero?
Whoopsie.
Any sniper scopes will be juice.
Where is he?
Fighting over here, southeast.
No, he's not coming? Fuck, dude.
Follow me, follow me. Go
want to
straight
bait
into
him.
fight.
I got 10 bats now.
Alright, Tishin, I'll put him there. Get in here, fat ass.
Wow, that's not very nice. Dreams of the
They're up the hill. You send it up the hill or what?
Yeah. You fucking boost right now. Bubbled up.
Up, bubble.
Come here.
This guy in front of us.
Knocked.
Red, blue, 45.
Knocked one.
I'm
Nice
weak,
guy.
I'm weak.
Cracked him. You go challenge my ass.
I got him. Don't worry about it.
Where's the? Oh, another team on us. I have to ult backwards. The she can flank them up the hill.
Yeah, I
100,
can.
110 on Ash.
Where is she? Oh yeah, she's behind the forklift.
Close to you.
She healed. I got her tethered, man. There.
88 on one. Dead.
Crack
Push
the ash.
Jack,
Crack
push
the
Jack.
ash. 1 HP. Dead. Third party from left. I think they're rezzed.
Next to me. 100, 110 on blood.
Shoot the shit. I can't. My sense is too low. Fuck.
Fanning.
Hit him.
My ult. Never mind. Let me get some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm coming in hot.
Oh,
Bless
holy
you.
shit, dude. I needed that. The Poland, man. Fucking me in the ass, dude.
I got 13 bats. 1 medkit though. Unlucky. Got drone detected.
Yeah, I got
Look
the
at this
car.
fucking bitch.
You wanna jump in, Mr. Archer? Tashin, I mean?
Yeah.
Go, bro.
Go. Good luck.
Holding a bat. I don't know my ult yet.
Don't my climb up.
2 above you, Mandy.
3. Is it 2 teams or what is this shit?
On me. On my door.
150
I'm coming.
crypto.
I'm on your door. I'm on your door.
130 blood.
On the
Blood
other
one,
side.
blood one.
Pathfinder up the stairs.
Knocked one.
I got it. What is that fucking bad cup? What the fuck was that nade? Fast as we can maybe res here.
Yeah, I got you.
70 on him. Keep going.
I'm ripping it.
Ah!
Holding
Mama.
it. Hey,
Am I kidding?
this is a duo, I think.
Bunch of bitches, dude.
He's gonna peek right in 2 seconds, yeah. There. Can peek one more time. Yeah, he knows he's dead.
70.
He just dropped the shit.
You got fucking punched from everyone, dude.
Why you always me? Please, please tell me why you always say it.
Nah, that was LGS chat. That was first game of LGS. We just won. Yeah, LGS in Olympus now. Feeling good, Kurt, are you? Yep. LGS again today, yeah, for the next 4 days. RPR is the new VTuber.
Hello.
Hello, motherfucker.
One team. Look at them. Third party NDs. Look at them landing on my
Let's go.
Fire.
You know, they think they're third party us, but I go to them now, alright?
Oh shit.
Alright, go. Yeah, go.
Dude, I'm fucking ready. I got Mastiff and Arnen.
You wanna go to them?
Yeah, let's fuck him
I'm
up.
waiting here right now.
Okay, yeah, reverse card.
Teach him a lesson, dude.
Pulling up stress limousine.
Come. Give me a second. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're ready. Ah ha ha, you suck. Ah ha ha. I suck, holy shit.
Oh, you knocked one.
And they got thirded. Let me do this real quick.
The repeater, bro.
Don't spam finish, come on, dude.
He deserves that for being a fucking pussy. His teammates right here. Up the ramp.
Behind us.
66,
Behind
80,
us,
86 on him.
Behind us, boys.
Yeah,
behind
I
us.
almost cracked Octane.
I'm
Walking quite
phoenixing.
behind.
Double arced him. Cracked two of them. crack 3 of them, 1 knock. Push this bubble now.
Oh my god, I can't fucking push shit. I have no HP.
Crack, knock 2, I got his whole team. Maybe.
Alpha, they're coming up.
I got them all.
Fighting here.
I'm slow healing. I'm not slow healing, I'm Phoenix.
I'm slowly like shoot the holes like an option. Cracked one here.
Oh
Check
shit,
it.
he broke goodies.
Below him.
Cracked one more. He bubbled?
One's inside the
What's wrong
building.
with you?
Fuck you shooting at, bitch. I'm tethering. Got one tethered.
Over here.
Cracked another one, Tashin. There's 2 cracked in there. How am I dead? Fuck happened?
Wait, 7 headshot, crack 2.
Come here, bubble here, rest here. Oh, you're dead.
Oh, no, I'm not.
You have knockdown shield?
Push it. Yeah, I'm not done. Only white. Nice. 2v2 right here, below and above. Nice, last below. Guys.
You have
1v1.
knockdown shield here.
Heal. I have no knockdown, so I'll just scout. Keep healing. I'm scouting, you're good.
Let's go up the stairs if you want. And inside the
He's
building.
resing. You got him up, I think.
Pay me.
Woo!
What? No way, dude.
Holy shit.
He, dude, there's no shot. He crouches. He crouched a second before I shot, dude.
How did he pull off a fucking red? He's one shot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I minus 60 for that game.
Once I saw that tap shift meter, I knew it was game over for him.
Minus 50. What the fuck?
Minus 20, dude.
I'm on 60, dude.
I won't reach Predator, dude. It's not. Isn't it like a week now? Good?
Who the fuck cares about Predator? Let's reach fucking land, dude. It's more important.
Yeah, dude, of course. Right now it's rank time.
Toa tweet, Bap? What do you mean? Because you responded to my tweet yesterday?
Oh, it's 11 days, I think.
Your mom, Bap? What do you mean your mom? Fuck you, dude. What do you mean? Bitch. Stole your tweet. Fuck you. What's the minimum RP for Pred now? I don't know, 20, 30k? 30k, I think. $30ish k.
What's on time?
Oh shit, bro. No one here. Oh, we got a team. Oh, guy, solo here, fishing. Solo octane. What the fuck am I doing, dude? Holy shit! He's on the roof.
Oh my god.
Oh, you fucked him?
You can
Nothing
go.
less from Mr. T, dude.
I don't
me?
know if I can. I got
On
him.
me on the bottom. Valkyrie. I did 0 on him. I'm pushing him, bud.
There we go.
He's nading down.
Push you over the side. I'll show these guys who's boss of this gym.
Right one. Second floor is cracked. One on roof.
They're on the roof now. I
Down
think.
here.
On the roof. Raid 22
Who do you
roof.
think? Who do you think you are?
What the fuck is this guy smoking? Why am I getting aim punched by a fucking PK? He's one. Oh my god, dude. How many times is he gonna aim punch my ass? Cringe.
Oh no!
Bring it.
Kringe!
I need wingman, dude.
You have sentinel?
Nope.
I just
Oh,
dropped the
no.
wingman on those guys.
Oh shit, you did?
Ah,
Where?
There's the wingman here, bro. Look.
Oh shit, let's go. Okay, let's go. Moving on, eh? Yeah, but you, where's the heavy ammo, man? Oh, I have some heavy ammo, never mind.
I have 8, bro, if you need.
It's okay, it's good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I got 120. I was actually subconsciously carrying ammo for myself, bro, and I found wingman.
You're ready for the wingman. I'll spawn.
Exactly, I always carry the wingman mag and ammo with me, dude. I'm ready whenever, dude. I see it, whenever I see the thing, I'm ready.
That's me with sentinel. If I have 6 times scope with me, I carry that shit.
Dude, that Zeta PC emote is the best, dude. Oh, John, we fucking run him over, dude.
On us.
Dude, we run that kid over. Where the fuck are they?
Under?
How
Close
many
to-
nades are you spamming, motherfucker?
The armor swap.
I fuck him in the side.
I cracked him, the armor swap. Where the fuck is he?
Behind us.
Close.
45 wide.
I can't, I'm gonna lose this.
Dude, I hit him for 90.
I got
Should
him.
lose.
Listen, I have DP on my wingman. Don't fucking question anything.
Come on, fucker.
He's up on this.
He's right here. He's flash.
They're body here now. 45 purple on raid. Wait, once, 120. Bitches ain't nothing but hoes and chicks.
Holy shit.
Everyone has wingman master, wingman PK. Oh, blue heavy mag loop. Blue heavy mag loop.
I want an red dot. Okay, let's go. Fucking DT on wingman never again, bro. Oh, he shot from me. Let's go kill him. Oh, you done fucked up. You motherfuckers
I'm landing
fucked
straight
up.
on them.
Oh no, I landed a little bit safer. I sensed manded death. Yep.
I'm good.
I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. Wait, I didn't reload my PK. This is not good. Not good for me.
Right one. Right two.
Brave low.
Keep it dead. All dead.
That dude, it blocked me.
Motherfucker said I'm dead. Come on.
That guy just blocked me, man. That's why I died.
I dropped that blue armor. Stop.
Did it for the
Who said I'm dead?
Shawty, yeah, don't.
I'm dead.
Oh, you said I see. I sense Mandy's dead.
Yo, give me medkit. No,
I mean, the way things was going, if I didn't,
I
if I
was
didn't,
dead.
if I didn't TP on you, dude.
I was dead.
Good luck and win out, dumbass.
Dead bread. Fuck you. Thank you for 1,000 bits. I appreciate you. I'm leaving you.
We do it too.
That's what she said to you, man.
Nice. Can we wait until he is old again? Just stand here.
I'm going. I got no time.
I saw a
for standing around.
crazy spot today, by the way.
You saw what? You did what?
I saw a crazy spot in Jen Burton scrims today.
On Stormpoint or?
Yeah.
I saw some crazy ones as well, but I don't know if they're, you know, it's certain challengers, so I don't know if they're valid.
I don't know. I saw some crazy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
When was that? What time was that, bro? Was it at the night, morning?
Before we started playing.
Nah, they
Oh,
they're
yeah,
warming
like
up.
10 or some shit.
No bullshit.
I didn't watch them.
Hello, Nico. What is this shit song, dude? Give me back my fucking Ice Cube, man. Bitch.
Time to fly, boys. Time to fly. What is this?
Fly right here.
Running
I know.
simulator.
Just go over turbine. Can we?
Yeah, from up here.
Hit the joint. Karin arigato. Bruh. Bruh. That's a tall man. Bruh.
Vault main.
For real, for real.
No one can fly better right
DP
here.
over there. Oh! Right here
Oh,
somewhere.
wait, wait.
Alright,
Yeah,
jump.
we gotta go nowhere.
Yep. I can jump over.
Oh my god,
There.
selfish portals, dude.
I couldn't move. I had to do it. Otherwise, I'd die timer. Probably far purple and all. One guy's getting close here. Right side.
See? Pushing down.
What the
got
fuck was
top.
that nade,
Lifeline,
bitch?
lifeline crack.
Is lifeline down there?
105, all three.
Fuck was that
There.
doing?
Let's get tank this shit. Oh, it's. Wait, I thought it was lifeline.
Lifeline is up here. That is Wraith on you.
Yeah, lifeline. Raise
That guy's
it up.
fucking 45
Right here.
flush.
Go on to our rampage. Ah!
I did 90 on the rampage, boy.
Oh, wait, I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
Fat ass.
Help, dude. What? No.
Chill, I got ults him.
Good job.
Dude, no
They're
shot.
looking to push.
I'm actually stuck. I can't get out.
And 120 on lifeline.
There. I'm good. I'm good. Oh my god.
Right. Dude, what is up with this fucking nades, dude? One guy here, one guy left, and now lifeline's going around or some shit.
I'm getting an angle soon.
Tearing that guy. Tether him, nade him.
Nah, dude, he's fucking ready to screw up. Very cute.
He's still he's up here.
He went out. Yeah.
Lifeline 70.
They got thirded, I think.
No, they're just running. 70 on the Wraith. I'm filling them right now. Wraith lock.
Oh shit. Nice. Patty got shit on.
They're getting shit on, bro. They can't do shit right now.
They're alive on
sticking
nursing, I
up.
think. I almost. I got him.
I'm pushing. 90. Oh, cracked him on 20.
Oh!
86,
41 flash, 41
fuck.
flash!
Middle one.
I don't know.
41
41 flash again!
Oh,
I think the other guy is also flash.
The other guy's one. I body shot, headshot him.
I wish. Join me. Oh, I'm going.
You go, I'll go
I
pull
come.
him.
You got split from me, okay? I'm gonna do something. Split from me.
Okay.
Do you see him? Let me know.
No.
No. Right here.
don't see him.
Right below me.
Don't worry, I'll hit the shot.
45 on him.
Go, baby. Come on.
9.
Come on. Come on. Let's do it. Let's do it, motherfucker.
Nine. Toying with him, dude.
Holding him legit.
Fucking
Bless
hell,
you.
dude. Oh my
Falling
fucking
going
god.
crazy right now.
Bless you, my man. Yo,
Let's go.
I'm dead.
Can you res? Oh, they're padding. I cracked one. I cracked 2 of them. I cracked 3 of them. 1 HP on me, Raid.
I'm just fucking bubbling, so you got that.
Got him. 2 are down. Last guy on me. Blow down, front door. Front door. Resing.
Who's that?
South res.
jump heading on us. New team jump heading, bro.
You gotta res or some shit, I know.
Right.
It's kind of rough.
Are you sure it's new team? I'm finishing here.
Has to be, I think.
On roof, one guy.
Yeah, that's the team. On, in front of us, I think.
2 seconds. Why is he shooting at a door? Is he wall hacking?
Valkyrie, shoot the Valkyrie.
41. Shoot it for 41 Valk. Valk is fucking low.
Come with me.
I can't right now, I'm pumping bad.
On the roof, Ash. Back on the roof. I'm batting, I got a bat here. Batting on me.
Padding.
120. I'm gonna die. I'm dead, guys. These guys hit 120, he's finishing me for armor. How?
No.
Finish him.
I'm helping. 90 on the guy here.
90 on the stairs station.
Yeah, but it's the guy on the door too.
Wait a sec.
You gotta finish that guy or they're gonna res.
I know.
I have a mobile.
Just like.
It's also
I'm
normal.
gonna
Right?
rest Mandy. I'm gonna rest our Permian, bro.
Oh,
Finish
he's
the
dead.
guy on the ground.
Yes.
They're fucking close.
The Shin,
I don't
you
have
might.
shield.
Oh, you might die here.
Yeah.
Just walk with it. They're pushing Tashin really hard.
I can't do anything.
There's
He's
2
just
teams.
fucking
Tashin just heal, I think.
I know.
Yeah, he's good. He got a little fucking angle here. Did you find a mobile on those bodies, maybe, Manda?
I have mobile. I have mobile.
Oh, they just finished them. It's last team. It's literally last team. You have to fucking do it.
What,
in
just
the
fuck
storm.
them?
Yeah, just fuck him.
Manda already bubbled.
Let me kill him.
He's one shot. The Kraber guy is
Rates
one
one.
shot.
Rates one.
Hot dog.
Rate is one. Rate is one. Nice job. Yeah, boys.
Oh my god. Losing that Omega.
Was that a full team?
Yeah. 3 guys. Tashin knocked one before you could even see him. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
They're making a crazy bow skin for the event.
Really? Probably the only person that cares, but yeah.
Your mom.
And friends know we got that endo. No, I'm not a sucker. Sitting in the
You guys make Crank look like pubs because it is pubs right now. Holy shit, it's fucking terrible.
It's a good warm-up though. We have to fight.
Yeah. Lightning. Because we lost the tiebreaker, CK. They had a higher kill win game. We won a game with 10 kills, they won a game with 17 kills, so they win the tiebreaker even though we had more kills overall. Kind of weird. Come on, Misaki.
You guys think we will get this map for competitive one day?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think certain maps are never gonna be seen competitive ever again.
Storm Point got released later and got put into.
Yeah, because I don't think you can adapt this map.
Stormport is way
Yeah.
better.
You can't adapt this map to competitive unless you make it bigger.
So they
Yeah.
made Storm Point on purpose for competitive then, and Olympus.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't know.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, they said that it was made with competitive in mind.
Yeah, I never read that shit or like look.
But the KC was also good for comp, but they ruined it. Guy in front of me.
It just needs to be 50% bigger and that's fine.
I cracked this guy on me. There we go up.
Team 6 headshot.
Oh my god, this shit.
Can't fucking hit. 45. Who are
All the
these
time,
guys?
right?
Yeah, look at this shit.
Oh, lad.
I use it and I'm gonna be quiet.
I was ready, dude. If you get knocked 360 magic right there, right there.
Your legend fall in the bacon.
Okay, I've listed Ice Cube. I think it's time for some Biggie, bro.
We have to meet Solar quick, guys. I need attachments.
Yeah, I'm down.
Hey, bird second.
Oof, never mind. I have scope now. Half looted.
Can't worry, yeah.
I see. 70 fuse. 70 again.
Knocked him.
Where's your team?
He's alone, dude. It's Slippy underscore G underscore CA underscore TV, dude.
Jeez.
Rip them down.
I'm never picking up an Eva again in the tournament, by the way.
Why?
It's just terrible. Even with
I don't
purple
think
balls.
Eva that's bad.
It is for me. I'm taking any spray weapon over it.
Yeah, I guess. I also like the way your playstyle and shit compared to like mine.
Above me.
I shot him.
What
Big
the fuck?
bubble up, climb up here.
What is happening?
To the arm side. Nice shot, Mr. T.
Thank you, Mr. Mandy. I can't believe how it happened, but it happened. Owned by a 12-year-old kid. Look at him, dude. Look at him.
And he's in the lobby.
Chat, I need a clip. Boys need to see this. Yo, come on, bro.
I'm coming. Don't fly without me.
Look, up, bro.
Oh my! The pad's gone. We broke the pad.
Yeah, that's my
3,
Valkyrie technique.
2,
No.
1. Lift
Give me
off.
1 second, please.
Now we can go. Everyone is in. Safety. Safety first.
Come here.
Honey, check it.
6 days for LGS
To get with my friends.
in total.
We could be friends. Shit, we could do this every weekend. Alright? Is that alright with you? Yeah. Keep going.
Big pop. Hands in the air.
Oh, Walker! Walker, Foggy!
Those shots were kind of crazy. I just looked at them. Headshot, body.
Nice, one knock.
Oh, they're coming. Oh, they want this shit.
How am I missing that? Motherfucker standing still.
In their pocket.
One 40 in the pocket.
I got hit.
One on the right here. I'm gonna die here. Being pushed. What are we doing?
Shit.
No.
I was resting by healing on me.
17 on 1. Octane crack. I'm batting.
Octane's popping a bat in the window here.
Play on me.
Yeah, I'm batting.
I guess we're throwing Gibble just to look at him. DJ, thank you for
One knock.
There's arm swap on you if you need.
He's weak. I'm good.
Standing.
Dead.
Good job.
Who is this? How do you lose that? Who is this?
No. I knew.
How do you lose that? I have Eva. I didn't have arm shield at 100 HP.
FB in somewhere.
Oh, it's FP?
Draconian, whatever. Jose.
Draconian. That's a pretty cool name. I like it. Definitely better than fucking Mandy, dude.
No. Mandy's special.
Her name's fucking ass, dude.
Everyone knows Mandy, bro.
Yeah, that's because it's such a weird name.
Same with Taishin, dude. Who the fuck names him like that?
Isn't your last
I think you
name?
need a special name. Taishin? John.
That's a weirdo name. They copy my strats to have Sentinel.
No, not copying the shots. Fuck. Why are they?
Two of them, 45.
Who's that guy on the left?
That's a different team up front. Restable?
Wait. How many does he have? He's on the left. They're on the left. Holy shit, they're dog shit, bro.
Yeah, hit you, not me. No. Yes. Yeah.
Oh no.
Level 168, okay, bro.
Good. I didn't die to these nukes. I died to myself.
Oh.
Fall off.
What are you doing,
Oh.
man?
I'm trying to fucking run to you guys, but I'm gonna get kept by fucking Sentinel Hilaria and fucking Bo Andy.
Just run left side, bro.
Yeah,
Where are you
exactly.
going?
Just
I'm
run
running
left
to
side,
you
brother.
guys, but they kept pushing me. Don't worry, I got it. I'm sure I won the strat here that nobody knows about.
Those guys are terrible, by the way. They're really fucking bad.
1v3 balls or what?
Easily 1v3. I've only seen 2 of them.
Oh, I'm lagging, dude.
What's up, Ice? No way.
No shot, you do that. I'll do that. No, dude, the way he fucking played that shit was so weird. I was expecting him to peek me, but he didn't. He fucked me.
He had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah, when I missed the first shot, I knew it was GG's. Fucking leave. My life is a movie directed by Tarantino.
Today was a good day. Hoorah. Whoa, that was an accident. I accidentally switched the song. But we can fuck with this. We can fuck with this. Yeah. For entertainment.
Boys, watch this shot.
Jen just showed me it. Fucking, that was crazy.
Then Sentinel crazy.
Those coming close.
I gave niggas like you a reason for celebration. You number one and I'm Eddie Murphy, we trading places. Look in the mirror, I'm closer than I really appear. Creeping like chili without the tender love and care. No tender love and care, no love and affection. I got a price on my head, but there's a risk to collecting. I might be here as a vessel to teach people a lesson. Feel like they wanted me dead, but couldn't pull it together. Yeah. But here we are.
What's up, GT?
Semester 40, the only one that know how I deal with depression. A couple nights where it started to feel like the feelings fading. A lot of problems that can't be fixed with a conversation. Yeah. Your best day is my worst day. You treat me like I'm you don't be scoring perfect. You don't be working like how we be working. You platinum like rappers on Hershey's, boy, that shit is working. You get the message over and over like it was urgent. And then act like you ain't.
Now let's do some sick K, or maybe some CGM. Oh, I'm feeling this. Yeah. How long? 2 hours. 2 hours 15. Oh, it's already Friday, dude. Holy shit.
One team.
Two.
Alright.
How'd you get on the roof, bro? Holy shit. I'm getting grappled on. Getting chased. There's a guy just sitting here. What the fuck?
Give me the fucking no.
I have no gun, sorry.
14.
I'm fine. I have hemlock.
Blue.
They're fighting below.
Why the fuck did I not take that?
I don't know.
No
I took
shot. No. Help.
Was like,
I'm mad.
it. Probably one syringe. Where is he?
jeez.
Other side. I'm just gonna loot here.
Nice. Hold knockdown, I'm gonna grab that. You ready to go up? Fuck it, yo.
You guys are going there?
I can't shoot, I can't shoot! 77, cracked! We win this, easy.
No ammo.
It's free, it's free.
Nope, one. I don't know who
Here,
the
on the right
fuck.
side.
I'm getting blocked like crazy. On me.
Oh,
Two different team, bro.
One thing dead.
I just fucking get down.
I cracked the raid.
I just get down.
I knocked the Ash, I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
Do they have ammo? The balcony, Mandy.
Alright.
The
On
balcony.
I'm dropping down. Someone's on me, dude. Any medkits? I have two
Good on me.
syringes
No.
No medkit, syringes, yeah. And I have no ammo.
I have my ult. We could ult on them. Or we could
You
fucking
find
go.
this guy top left.
He's pushed.
He's down.
What is
He's
this?
low. Bubbling.
Behind us.
On here.
Almost cracked.
Fuck him.
And behind
One
us.
more here, one more here. Hit a
11.
30.
11.
Cracked him.
Knocked.
I'm finishing.
I'm showing this guy who's the boss of this gym. Oh, punching? Punching?
Fucking Beavis and Butthead, dude.
Yes.
Uno arigato.
At least we're alive, dude. I was just punching around, still alive.
Let's go. I have 4 arc stars. I'm only gonna use arc stars for the next fight. It's about to do some crazy shit.
I want to see that.
Don't worry about it.
Oh my god, the zone is a little bit fucking in Narnia. Just a little bit. Not even looted.
High steps.
Oh no, yeah. Just fucking wait, 2 seconds.
Right here. Wall on 36 blue.
I wish I had ult.
Right here. 44 blue on that guy. 30 blue on blood on.
Throw me here.
Shit on blood on hit the 80 or some shit.
From the log side.
Behind you. And he's done.
Get myself.
Starting on my left.
New team? I don't know who's shooting.
That guy's one. Yeah, new team up the hill, I think.
Damn.
Or they're third. That guy's one on you, Nader.
Yeah, no, I'm punching.
I think that might be their third.
It is.
What are you doing?
Okay. I'm fucking trying to wall jump, but he just hit me for like fucking million. Why are they
I'm
finishing
gonna
me?
die now.
No, coming.
I need help. He's right above me. There's a raid below. I knocked the raid. This guy's gonna drop on me. Yep. I cracked him. He pushed me. Like he's cracked. I'm doing knockdown shit. How?
No way.
Come on. He's literal dog shit.
Oh,
That's
you see him.
good, buddy.
Do you have ult?
Well,
Oh,
oh!
so close, dude.
I hit myself with the missiles somehow.
This fucking idiot fucking finishes me somehow.
That's crazy, dude. He fucking body headshot me. 4 bullets, dude. The homie. Ah, +1 though. Hey.
Plus 21. Good night, Kura. He's watching. Alright. Two hours until I'll just. Maybe. Super lately. Lion. Aslan, I mean. I don't take requests, Debbie. You know me. I listen to what I want to listen to. What's up, Tomo? Good morning, Maple. Hey, glad you're doing good. Blanks. Hope you keep doing better, man. Was an ordinary request. I will block you on Discord, and then your order would be literally non-existent. So. Plus, you can't order me around, bitch. Fuck you. Thank you, Liva. Thanks, Debbie. Bum 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 bum. Hasta arigato. Thank you, Raichi. Yeah, Dippy, regarding how small you are, you'd probably fit in a box. Thank you, Doma. Come on, kitty. Snake eyes. Alright, it's good.
We have 2 noob teams.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what it is. They're both low. One more.
Do we need help? No!
Almost off.
Hulk on me. Oh, there's a whole new team, bro. They have purples and
That
shit.
drive is 1 HP.
He's coming up!
Only?
Ash is pushing behind you guys. Ash and Hulk.
I need to go down.
They're fighting someone else. And now I'm being finished, of course. By this fucking absolute vision. Yeah. Go to that first.
Holy fucker.
Okay, 60 seconds on the board. What now?
Yeah. We're going up this side. Are they crazy or what?
Low key.
50 on him. I cracked him. The guy on you. 60 flash on him. He's 40 HP.
I don't see man.
Over there. On this side.
We're literally sitting on the banner. Like, hello?
60 again, another guy.
Oh, below
great.
one guy below me. Inside.
Come over to my side. Near my side, Tashin. Get over now. I'm bubbling halfway.
Machine is too good. It's just too good. They could never.
Knock the guy.
Oh! They could never. Resin?
He's low one.
Break.
Knocked him.
Behind you guys.
15.
Oh! Cayman style!
Pulled up my fucking club right there.
Bonk. Chasing his ass.
The fucking bonked on the fucking head, dude. Now you see. Yes, let me get some of the juice, dude.
I just scanned somebody, but
He's hiding.
yeah.
What the fuck is the other guy dead? Where the fuck is the other guy?
I can't see him. Fuck, dude. No angle, Tashin. You got it though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, there's no delay right now. Where's his loot? Where'd he die?
He's got fuck it.
I don't know. I think he has shit, dude.
Alright.
No.
Oh, yeah, PK, what do you mean? Oh, look at this shit. Oh, look at this god shit. Not from me. My broke ass. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Night time.
I got like no meds, but yeah.
I'm dropping some.
What's up, Adam? Wingman. You guys how heavy? I dropped this.
50 heavy.
I got 22. Oh, I got some more here. 62. Taking Dexter. Oh, this is United. We kick the kid. United. Things early.
Where they dying up, guy?
I have no idea.
Bring us to the death.
Let's go here. Thanks, Reshux. We kick the kid. United.
On me.
Here.
Hiding.
$106 on Octane. Noreg on Valkyrie. She's on power and ping.
60 on oh no.
Flash.
Yeah, I'm
20 on
needing backside.
Octane. Almost cracked Valk.
On your team. Little fucking rat, dude. 18 cracked one guy.
Stuck him.
Shit.
Give me one.
Oh, keep it low. Wait,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
the-
yeah.
what? He's inside the thing. I got him.
Both teams dead or what?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, all
They
that, all
killed
that.
the other team.
Let's fly on the other side.
I'm down.
Probably medkit real quick. Hey, kick the kid. United. We got that team there.
Yeah.
And one team here. Come here, let's land here. He lava queued here. Go further, go further. Oh, we smoke him.
Them in
Let's
the
roll
back,
them smoke.
smoking on his ball sack. Yeah.
Oh, one is on height, 2 on height, 3 on height. That's a whole team on height. Holy shit.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my god.
How?
Yeah. It's Shinny Twitch. It's my
Oh, he's-
favorite crypto player.
He's going fast. He's
No,
going
me,
fast.
no. There's a different team on my side now.
Fucking range lord on fucking crypto. Like actually get a fucking life, Shinny. Holy shit, get a fucking life.
Relax, relax, relax. I would never lost it before in my life. Turning down for the music. Turning up for
They
the.
need 2 people to first me, dude. 2.
Don't worry about it. I got it. Everything under control. Shinny always camps. Don't worry about it. It'll be a 1v3.
So cringe.
Dude, why is your fucking boyfriend looking at me? Shinny, tell your boyfriend to stop shooting. Come on, man. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. They're gonna be standing on that bitch for fucking a minute, dude.
George,
Yeah, 'cause they're bitches. We'll play crypto, dude.
for 25 months. Hot man.
Unless
Jordan, 25 months, welcome back. Thank you, man.
he's dead. Look at him.
Appreciate you.
Let's observe this wraith. He's dead.
I'm gonna get what.
I know where the crypto is. Let me go for Uni. Can I do it? No, dude. Why is he calming that? Come on, dude. 7-man deep in Discord right now. Come on, dude. Don't worry, I'm gonna get revenge for you guys. I'm just gonna kill Shinny, no one else.
You win the game, easy.
You got this, bitch. Let's kill Shinny if you do anything.
Yeah, I'm. Come on.
Come on, acquire
You ran
life.
this way. Acquire, dude. Buy one. Do I make 2 bats? That's medkits? That's a real question. I see you.
Where is
I
he?
see you, Shinny. He's looking at me. Right there.
Can you load? They're running at you. Look how horny he is.
Look at this. Oh, you should have went for the 1v1, you little pussy. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Yeah! So terrible.
So bad. Hard
Keep
Stock
playing
Masters.
crypto,
Hard Stock
dog
Masters crypto, 10
shit.
seasons in a row. 10 seasons of Hard Stock
Dog
Masters crypto. 10
shit.
seasons in a row.
Let him-
Back to back to back.
Get him
to
finished,
back
get
to
him
back
finished, get him
to back
finished.
to back to back to back champion of the fucking masterclass. Yes.
Ah, fucking dog shit.
Oh
Imagine,
my god.
Imagine playing ranked every day in
Oh
this
my
this
God.
ranked state and not being fit.
21k hard stock masters. Fuck you, Shinny. Yeah.
Cringe. Actual cringe, lord.
Give me next, give me next, give me next.
Oh my god, easy.
He just runs at you, bro. He doesn't care, bro.
Feels good, man. That felt good.
Final Sunset is back, man.
Yeah, it's nice.
We knew it was Mande when the cringe lord threw his entire game just to push Mande. Because he's a fucking freak show, dude.
And then he got shit on, dude. I didn't kill him, but he got shit on. He solo crypto ulted me. What a bitch, dude.
Knowing it was you, he crypto ulted you because he's a pussy that didn't want to take a 1v1 with you. What's up, Nixon? And yeah, out we do. We play today. We play in 4 more days, so 6 in total. Thanks, Sipsy. Years old, man.
Ready to go.
Richard 32, man. Holy shit. My outfit clean, my NBA.
No balls. Oi.
Also, thank you 2 months off the
Come
back.
on, boys.
For just resubscribed for 2 months. Good luck in outs.
Thank you. My outfit clean. My NBA. I really like Ash's fucking fly mode. It's so sick. We're going 2 platform.
Dude, I got the booster seat already coming out, dude. I'm going to this side.
I tethered one of them on the platform. There you go. Got a P20.
I don't need anything else. I don't need anything but this weapon. I'm pushing. Hey, alright.
Going great for you. I'm marking, open door. Right, Toshin just fucking.
Just fucking.
This out, okay?
This bolt just fucking swung on me, dude. Oh shit.
Where are you?
I'm still I'm healing.
Toshin was about to punch us out, dude.
Yeah, well, it was one, dude. It was one.
I had to stop the embarrassment. saving him some fucking grace, you know?
Nice.
Holy shit, they were juiced. How'd they lose?
I was baiting, that's why.
Yeah, that was a good bait.
They're only looking for me, dude.
I double arced. If they pushed you, they would have died to Marksters. So they were fucked. Bitch. Any wounds?
No.
Cool. Why? It's Friday, I'm working.
It's Friday.
Gotta get down on Friday. Party, yeah.
Friday. That's a banger, dude. It's one of my favorite songs in the world.
Yeah.
That song is like 10 years old or something. More, dude. Even.
Bro, I don't even fucking
Yeah,
know.
Rebecca Black, dude. She still pulls in a big bag every single year on that song, I think.
Think so?
Yeah. It's like fucking like Gangnam Style. Isn't that one of the most listened to songs in the world? No, I think
Yeah.
Baby Shark took over Gangnam Style. It has like 10 billion views on YouTube.
It did?
or some
Oh my
shit.
god.
Baby Shark has like 10 billion on YouTube or some shit, dude.
Baby Shark is fucking super nice. So.
Yeah. It's fucking. It's so. Baby shark, baby shark, baby
No,
shark.
that's what we're gonna say in the fucking LGS the entire time. Don't say it.
It's a banger. Oh wait,
but-
Despacito is number 1. That song has always and will always be fucking ass.
Despacito.
It's so bad.
So
How is
annoying,
that,
dude.
how is that ever a top contender for the best song in the world? Ever.
Because it's normie friendly.
Yeah, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah, we fly, boys. Come on.
So bad, dude.
You know what's the song, like the best song ever created? Travis Scott. The fucking what's
90210?
drugs you should try it. There you go.
Drugs You Try, that's a fucking banger.
Fucking absolute
Holy shit.
fucking juicer, dude. I want to put it on right now.
I actually want to listen to that song too, but it's not on Spotify, is it?
No, it's on YouTube. It's because the album never got released. It was like a sneak release.
Wait, maybe.
From what I know, his company never wanted to release drugs like that.
Holy shit, someone made a remix and put it on Spotify. What the fuck was that, dude?
Was she asked or what?
Oh my god. Straight booty cheek. Wait, let me find it real quick. Be right back.
Yeah, I
He's
gotta find
going?
it as well.
You guys got it. MP3, YouTube, download.
Dude, that song is such a banger. Yeah. Sammy, man. Hi, Luna. We'll present it's Koi by Lamb on Mobile Range. I've been down and lost for days.
Nothing is looted, dude. What is this? I'm alone. I'm just alone.
This game is
Custom
so,
lobby.
so fucking boring. Hello?
We're in a custom lobby chilling, dude. Learning some strats.
Dude, where do I find local files on Spotify? Local files there. Never mind, I got it. Anyway.
You got that tattoo, but you're cracking on your cat. You'll be right back, your mama ever know.
It's double. Back to back hits instantly, bro.
Lost for days.
Feels right. Shit, it kind of feels nice.
Ooh, huge fighter.
You just got that. I'm taking a drop.
Missing a guy, dude. Damn.
Did I get him up? Okay, I did not. 67 purple on the bottom. Front of me. Alright. How? Behind the fucking wall, dude. Actual fucking cringe 5 million ping, Andy.
Crawling into the zone, Andy.
Bangerson. Good round, man. Good are you? Man, you mute out if you know that.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Walk me right there, let's go.
He's better. Wait, what? Oh, I looted the fucking. I looted the fucking box, dude. Not you.
Loot the wrong box. Get on that fucking white rock and start putting out damage numbers. There you go. So I like to see they got one knock. Oh yeah. Ah yeah, just fucking. Oh. It's pure sex. The holy retribution comes. What? I'm gonna
Still
look
in
at
down.
that.
Somewhere. Did they take the banner? They didn't, right?
I don't know.
They couldn't.
I'm scanning them. See my ping? They got me scanned.
Yeah.
They're gonna pick me here.
The
on. There.
He's split as fuck. Where's the Wraith?
Right there where I pinged. What an unfortunate disaster. We somehow had to loot these boxers for like 20 minutes of the game.
Just making sure I got everything, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're still scanning me. Oh, here he comes. How's it got let you, bro? He's going straight forward. No, you don't know it.
Bro, just leave the zone. Hello?
Why are you scared of sound?
Why are they still in the zone?
Oh, they wanted
Here.
the banner.
You let me beat it up. You let me practice. Hey, now I'm finna lay you on the mattress.
He's gonna res him. Unless you know where he is. Do you know where he is?
He's dead.
Oh, you fooled him?
Oh, he died son.
Let's go. On my left here. Okay. Holy shit, man. What is the dog shit movement? Get good at the game. How am I losing actual 70 health around the rock?
72 of him? Cool kids never die. I died, yeah, I'm not cool. No, no, I don't think so.
Killed you pretty fast, man.
I have no big mats.
I don't know. They're full 10 inch.
Fucking 100 on him.
I can't do shit after I'm weak.
I have a lot of bats, man.
I'm fucking gone, bro. You really should run, bro.
I think I have Devo, that's why, yeah.
I'm gonna hold you soon.
GN,
They're
GN,
pushing.
the Billy.
They're pushing like crazy on me, man. I help. They're gonna push like crazy on me. Popping low, popping one. In my face with no audio. Puffin was literal one, man.
No.
How did this idiot not fucking die? This fucking trash can, bro. Doesn't know.
What?
Yeah, okay. He insta die.
He's crazy.
So weird, man.
You wanna look at him real quick?
Yeah, 100%.
First shot of the devotion was already hit.
What is he doing? Why did he just crouch in that corner? What, did he turn off?
I don't know, weird.
Look the way he's playing. What is he aiming at?
How does he know there's someone there?
Yeah, he's cheating 100%. I already saw enough.
he-
Guys. I already saw
Is he
enough.
aiming?
But yeah, he's
I
fucking
want to see
using it.
him. I want to see him shoot.
I already saw enough that I know this kid is cheating.
You're running the wrong way, dude. That's not the zone. Where you're going.
It's fine. Just look at them.
Yeah, 100% he's cheating. Like I already saw enough to know that this kid is absolutely using it. Guy's at least wall hacking. At least.
I mean, he didn't headshot me or
Fucking
anything.
pal.
He just hit me many times with the Devo.
No, he just knows where everyone is at every given time. He's looking at people through walls and shit. He's literally wall hacking. I don't know if he's aimbotting, but he's wall hacking 100%.
That's not a bad fucking take, actually. Someone said he probably turned it off after.
Yeah, I saw him go.
after
I saw him go in a corner and crouch and do nothing after I spectated him. And I was like, why is he doing that? He 100% is cheating, this guy. I'm gonna send his name in.
Who's ass? Who do you send names into?
Ren.
Alright, do you have his Discord and shit?
Yeah.
Can I get a Discord maybe?
Yeah.
Alright, because Hideout's shit is not working at all. So many people ran to him.
Oh, it's getting spammed. Whatever, man. We keep watching this idiot.
Nah, I reported him. Let's go. I'll send you the Ren Discord.
It's not even trying to peek, dude. What is this? How do you enjoy rank like that?
That's Ren. You're muted, man. I don't know if you're talking.
You wanna go out or what?
Yeah, we already. I'm already out. Both of us.
Holy shit.
2 hours.
Damn,
Yeah, 1
I'm
hour
giving
and a
Nick
half.
Merckx compliments and he shits on my fucking name. This motherfucking bitch, dude.
Really?
Yeah. I said that you guys are doing good and you guys are keep improving, and he said, "No shit, dumbass. You think we're gonna get worse?"
Yeah.
Look at him, dude.
This motherfucker, dude, giving him a compliment and start shitting on me, dude.
I watched his games yesterday. They play like fucking ass. I watched them play on Storm Point and they like sandwiched themselves between 15 teams. Got fucking ass blasted from some team that was abusing some fucking high up fucking mountain 1 pixel spot where they flew up with Valkyrie and just sat there and shot him for half an hour, and then they got sandwiched to fucking ass. You're also muted, man. I don't know if you're done.
Yeah, no. He's chilling.
We have a team. Let's go.
He just landed next to me and then queued. What is he doing? God, I'm going. No way, bro. No way he yoinked that. No way he yoinked that from me. Holy shit! Hey, this guy's AFK, bro. Man, what are you doing?
What the fuck do you mean? I'm looting.
It takes that long to loot 4 bins?
No, yeah, it does because you have to run to the other side.
It doesn't.
Motherfucker, you died.
Yeah, I died thinking my
Oh my
team was
god.
awesome.
Grenade. The other thing.
I see media.
Okay, I'm coming down, Mr. T.
Yeah.
What's up, Hidden?
Motherfucker's hiding.
What? Where's my bubbles? No! Cracked it. Jason, dude. This controller, by the way, be careful.
He's very controlling.
Oh, a little tap surf there? Hey, my man.
You hit that joint.
Thought I got so buzzing.
And you got that. Oh, they could never.
Mr. T on the beat, dude. One more. One more, Mr. Ty. He has a bow. Never lost this.
Oh! How is that a 9, by
Bots.
the way? How is that a fucking 9? Which one? Dude, look at them. They're talking in Discord. They're molding.
Spurs.
They're literally. That Wraith gave up. He was molding in Discord. He was screaming at someone, dude.
Losing that lol, dude.
He was like, how the fuck did we lose that? That's what you get, pussies, for fucking landing on a fucking third party spot and then coming in hot.
So tragic.
Absolute fucking demolition. Actual bots, dude. Like, people that do that, that's why you guys are bad, man. Like, cause you're not ever fighting anyone fair. You're just third partying. That's why you can't win a 1v3. Or is a good player. Some heavy anywhere?
Yeah, I have 100. I have enough.
I'm 50
have
actually,
wingman?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm 50, I'm good at
Yeah,
that.
take that. Take it. I have a lot.
Good. Who's next? There's a zip here, but there's no... It is good.
A little bit. We can just drive
Was
again.
that them? That was them probably, right? They look at this shit. What? Oh yeah, I just started. What's up?
Oh, I see someone
Where?
up here.
Holy Narnia, I'm no bats, brother.
Get on.
I have 2. Anyone need extra?
I have 2. Get out, boys.
The fuck are they? Are you sure you saw them?
I didn't see anyone.
I swear I saw somebody.
Rank is so ass, man. It's like how we're just struggling to find anyone. We should probably do ranged last hour.
Yeah, we could.
I don't feel warm at all because we've been just looking for people.
Yeah, fucking haven't been shooting people really.
Fucking scout.
A scout? I'm picking that shit up.
They won with more.
Let's go.
They had more. Or more kills in a win, which is the reason they won with tiebreaker, even though we had more kills overall. Ooh, friends.
Jumping out a bit. Oh, dude. A bubble on his ass? Oh, shit. 18 on him.
Two in this building. I broke their doors.
Talk about that guy. Oh my
Crack
God,
one inside.
he's
Crack one inside. I think Pathfinder.
dead. He's cracked. 36 on this guy. Oh my God. 66.
Headshot.
Let's get that easy. Nice. Let's go, baby. 112.
I'm dropping a purple.
I'm batting. Oh wait.
Wrote a purple on the ground.
Nice. Where?
Cool.
Outside?
On the door.
Okay, man. It's very nice of you.
Yeah, that's what I do. I do nice things.
Head shots.
Yeah. So come sit on me.
Fine. Take the point, man.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
There's an hour until LGS, guys.
An hour? You mean an hour 20, right?
Not 20, yeah, but that's what this game an hour. Chat
Yeah.
just asking. Keep asking me every 15 minutes.
Same. It's even my title, dude.
Oh, but just don't own a fucking clock.
Here, Jibby. And this. And this Jibby.
Headshot, body shot. No reg, body shot. Cool.
My nade, 17.
Cracked.
How did I hit somebody?
That Ash is cracked, I don't know why.
Wait, 36 flash. What the fuck am I burning?
Machine
I got the ash, I got the ash.
Where is he?
I don't fucking know.
Oh, he's
On me,
fucking
boys.
down. Go back.
Come
On
back.
me.
Stay alive, stay alive, stay alive.
I'm fucking chugging my ult on you.
Going my Q at the
Stay
front door.
outside.
Knocked one, knocked one.
I'll blow myself in here.
One more.
Of course he finishes. I'm gonna medkit this.
Two on me. Two on me.
I'm medkitting, man. Stay healthy.
8-8. Yeah.
Heal up, Mandy.
I know. Oh shit, I didn't have fucking... I knocked
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Did you knock one of them or no?
Yeah, I wanted that.
Guy on me.
What the fuck is that?
That's
That's
a
bad
shit
for me.
movement, bro. Just fucking die. You got sauces, don't worry.
Straight up. I got 8 bads.
Good to go.
I got 8 cells, I mean. I ate 8 medkits.
Huh?
Tell me if you
zero.
need any medkits, don't worry about it.
Zero.
Oh, you need some?
I
You want
have
2 or
one
3
now.
maybe?
One, no. I'm good. I take one. Fuck, I'm dying now, all of a sudden. Someone just died next to us. Too. 6 seconds ago. I'm gonna look. Come to me. Yeah, right here.
There's a car behind us.
45 purple on him, Tishin.
Ground me.
On you? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
41 purple.
I can't see. Cracked him. 27 flash.
Nice, dead it.
I can't see him. You killed him? Wait, what?
Yeah, you did
He did by
kill
someone
him.
else.
Someone else.
No, he died by someone else. Hail rake 133231. He killed him.
Right here in front of me on this rock.
Coming.
Horizon 90.
Oh,
Dead.
very low, very low. Oh, and the other?
Ulted.
One.
Don't worry about it. I got it. I got everything under control. I zoned the bubble, or the caustic ult.
In here.
I'm coming.
AJ.
They shoot back. Oh, one guy shoot back. One guy close. Dude, these guys haven't fought a soul in their life.
Don't stuck in a corner. I'm fucking tethering you. Crypto 90. One is
That's
green,
my
crypt.
low. That's my dead.
Behind me. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
just hit
so
everything.
low, so low, so low, so low. Style on coffee. Just kill him. I got him. Here, stop. Nice.
Yeah, so it's crypto, I think.
Hey, it's shiny.
Shiny.
Shiny. His eye shiny, dude.
Damn, where was this crypto
That
now,
motherfucker.
dude? No crypto, no one? Alright. Ah, Swan.
Yo, come with me. Come with me.
Fucking resin? What the hell? Yeah, it's just fucking stupid Joe, but it is what it is. Right here. Shoot him. Someone's on our height? No,
There's someone behind.
yeah, someone new. Come here,
Oh,
man.
shit,
Come
who-
to me, come to me, come to me.
I'm fucking coming. Dude! Oh, I'm so close! There, we're good, we're good. Hey. Look at them. Look at these motherfuckers, dude.
They're gonna take it, they're gonna take it.
Dude, they keep shooting!
Fucking rockets and
Not
shit.
kidding.
I almost cracked the bang.
They're
I'm
easy,
healing.
dude. They're easy 2v3, boys.
We might have to vault
I
with
got-
this.
7 medkits on me, 7! I'm not joking, 7 medkits. You can stay in home for a minute.
You have
dude.
heat shield. You have heat shield.
No,
Akar.
it's shield, no, it's shield.
I have chills.
Get this heat shield.
Come here, come here. Where are you going? We're gonna vault with this.
Monax, dude.
I have 10 bats. 10 medkits.
Yo, come down here. Let's walk with.
Yeah, I'm gonna heat shield in the open here. I'm gonna vault with, okay? Go over them.
Fly over. We'll reset.
They're flying after us, they're flying after us.
I need to Phoenix kit.
Building?
This building, okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Left building, left building.
Okay.
I'm Phoenixing.
On our roof.
Get stairs. Nah. I think stairs was better spot actually.
Ah!
If you played here, bro, I think if you played here, I could Phoenix in the corner, and you hold
Maybe.
me.
Maybe should run below, yeah. Trash can, bro.
I had a feeling dying to the window already, dude.
Top 2.
Alright, fine range. Fuck this shit. This fucking shit sucks ass. We're fucking looking at people for an hour, dude. Flavor. And the pee though, we're back.
Twenty-one. Giddy, 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 giddy.
Giddy. You ready to get fucked on or what?
Giddy, 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 giddy. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hit him.
Maybe I should not lay down and play. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Mr. T. Maybe you should start warming up something else, dude, but your movement. I can't hit! Oh, Mr. T.
Oh.
You ready for this one? Oh, no.
Ow, what the fuck is your problem?
No, I ain't bothered to him, bro.
Green. What is your problem, Green? What? How did you send arrow? Not arrows, fuck, what are they called?
Gun shield? No. Do it. No! I hit your gun shield. What the fuck?
She
Fuck is
looked
this
like
shit?
Marceline when she popped up Bean. What the fuck is that? Ooh, the triple heady, dude.
Guy has 20 bullets in the wingman.
Bullet wingman, dude. Oh no.
Damn. No
Looks like
missing,
I'm-
no missing,
looks like I'm
only
playing
hitting.
roller, dude.
Damn.
Bubble legends.
Nice shots, Mr. T.
Yeah, nice jinx.
Oh, you're disgusting, dude.
No fucking gun shields, dude.
The gun shield
shield.
god, dude.
Fucking saving your ass every
Right,
time.
dude.
Oh no.
Taking it in.
Oh no way.
Oh no, Kringe. Oh no, Kringe.
I was not
White
ready for that
PP
one.
with 1 HP. Hey, my man.
Oh my god. No. Oh, no!
Which fat ass dies first?
Dude, I thought you died! I hit the thing behind you!
Dude, playing GB is so easy. Oh my god, Amanda. Oh my god, Omega ratio.
Oh my, he said playing Jib is easy.
How good time are you?
No registration. Dude, I thought you were gonna stay in the bubble for a second.
What's up, Dizzy?
Oh no! I have to really reload! Dude, I'm trying to stop shooting!
No,
I can't hear! I can't hear, dude!
I'm gonna fall.
It's your audio there. Holy shit, dude.
Everyone's fault but his, dude. Everyone's fault
It
but
is.
his.
Can't even hear my own thoughts, dude.
An hour.
Oh, it's nice playing Apex like this, actually. It's just like normal. Just without the loud noises.
There he is. No!
Oh, like I'm kidding. I've been making like 2,000. One more second, and my arm shield's up, Tajin. I got it up. Just so you know, when you peek me, oh, you're disgusting.
No!
You're disgusting. You're disgusting. using my no audio right now.
Dude, you said 2 seconds and my missile was 2 seconds too.
Is it the same cooldown?
On my arm shield? No.
Arm shield and missiles?
No.
Which is longer?
Dude, I have no idea where the fuck Tashin is. Oh, there. AK-47 for the automatic. Hey. On the first shoot.
No. Dude, the thing is louder than the game, I'm pro.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Turn it down, bro.
I have zero volume.
You don't need you don't need audio, you know what you want. You shoot him.
You definitely need audio. You just think
Put your audio in zero.
it is. Little rat, dude.
If I play GP, you get rolled, bro.
Hey, get on Gibby then. I'm warm now.
Okay.
Now I'm warm now. Dude, this guy with his fucking excuses when he loses only one.
It's not. It's true. I only lose because I climbed there. What the fuck did I climb on?
I only lose because I missed my shots and you hit yours.
Oof. You have a weird fucking way of playing Gibby, dude.
No!
You ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, hey, we can get it cracking.
That is not a hit. I don't know, bro. My red dot is legit on you.
Holy fuck, dude. That's the fucking no thing at all, dude.
Do you guys think the tiebreaker should work on a high scoring game or the team with more kills?
I don't know.
I think it's the team with more kills in my opinion.
Or, dude, I don't know. I feel like,
Because
To be
then
honest-
that rewards consistency. A higher scoring game, you can just have one pop-up game and
nah,
you're like,
nah, it should be,
I'll
it should be, it should be, it should be
Fight
placement,
with Mandy and stop
pla-
shooting this fucking thing soon.
placement,
Holy shit.
placement points,
My ears.
what do you mean placement points?
average placement points.
That's your s-
average placement.
You mean overall then placement?
Yeah.
I think it should be kills.
Why? It's a BR.
Yeah,
The entire part of the game is
Doesn't
fucking
matter.
being alive in the end, shit.
yeah, but that's why you have the overall score.
Yeah, I feel like average placement, 100%.
I
What
think it
does
should
it
be
up by?
total kills.
What does it feel?
What?
That's
Feels
my
good up by?
prediction.
You're lucky. Lucky.
You're so lucky, dude.
And I'm lucky too.
Yeah, you just hit a headshot, didn't you?
No, that's his body. Wait, so sec. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm not ready.
What are we waiting for?
There, let's go.
I don't know. I think the highest, it being a tiebreaker for the highest points you got in one game, is like just benefiting. Is just benefiting teams that had one pop-up game.
No, but then they can still just start to come on.
I don't know what you're doing.
Just fucking run in.
I was behind a wall. Cool.
Yeah. Start.
What is blood on?
Oh, mistake. Oof. Start. Oh my god.
Manda's on the roller. Cool.
I am. Let's go.
Oh, fuck that.
I'm warming it up.
Why are you warming up on roller? You're not gonna
What?
use it. Why are you warming up on roller? You're not gonna use it.
Because I'm warming up your fucking your aim on roller players, you know?
We don't have any roller players in
We
here.
only have two, baby.
We do. Don't worry about it.
Those two guys, I will
Unlucky-
shit on them. dude.
Unlucky and Horizon. Who else do we have?
Hey, but are they gonna are we even gonna be playing against them today?
I don't
That's
know.
right. Let's go.
Wait, yeah, Yoki's roller, but are they still playing Yoki and them? I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, we got some snitches in your chat, RPR. I switched on the controller for 20 seconds and motherfuckers already made his own controller.
Yeah, Doctor
Oh
Doctor
my god.
Dr. Bowman did.
Holy shit, he was there instantly.
Yep. He was also the only one though, saying it.
I need to learn bug lights.
Alright, last one on the sticks, dude.
Well, I'm on the sticks as well. You know, my
are?
sense. My sense is a controller.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, you're like, what's your sense again?
07 on 800.
Holy
Oh, I
shit.
think I did it
And Super Glide?
once in my life. Low key.
Damn, you don't hit as much when you're on controller.
Oh yeah, I did it.
Work on.
Mama, I did it.
You did?
Nice. I
Mama.
like that.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
How do you know then?
How are you crouching below my boat?
Exactly, I don't. It looks like it, but that's not it.
You're disgusting.
Who's disgusting playing with a little fucking... Waiting for his little fucking... What is it called?
Arm
Personal
shield?
shield, dude? Cringe lord.
Dude, I'm twice as big as you. Come on, relax.
Whatever, dude.
Oh my god. What was that? Dude, this ledge right here. Right here, it just stops you. You can climb on it.
I'm fucking almost out of ammo.
You're on ammo already?
17 plus 9. What is that? 20.
Right. Let me hit a super guy real quick.
Have you ever hit one?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Right there.
Yeah, after
Oh,
I
that's true.
fucking finish playing, I feel like I've been working out with this sense. It just feels good.
Oh fuck, you're wrong. Oh.
I don't know.
Wait. I have my mute button on my button I'm fucking crouching on.
There you go. I just hit one.
Wait.
But the way you do it, okay? You want me to explain?
I know
Yeah.
how to do it. Oh.
So, Tashin,
I
when
think
you
I'm doing it right.
climb something, you're not. Climb something, and you see how your screen shakes on the left and the right, of
Yeah.
your screen. When it stops shaking, on top of your climb, that's when you super glide.
But what do I press? I press
Space
C
and
and
C.
spacebar.
Space and C while holding W.
Oof.
Like as soon as it stops shaking, you hit it.
Holy
And
shit.
trust me, you will know when you hit it, because it will
Two-
fucking send you flying.
240 FPS, dude.
There you go. Yeah, I'm doing it on 190 though.
Oh, low key.
I'm locked to 190.
What's the lock to space to 160?
Nah, I jump with space when I do this shit.
Hmm. Right.
And then after you do it a few times, you kind of get a feeling for it, and then you hit it often.
Oh, yeah, getting the feeling slowly.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
the
think-
fucking-
I don't think that's it, man.
the
Chat,
You,
tell me.
when you super glide, you will know, because you will go literally flying. It will feel like you're flying.
Oof. Fuck.
Crouch first and then jump.
I'll do it on the controller real quick.
Crouch first, then jump. I don't know who's telling you that. I do it at the same time, and it works. Yeah, FPS matters. If you have lower FPS, the window to hit it is higher. So. Some people use binds to fucking fuck with their FPS, but I don't think that's allowed in LGS.
No, you're not. There. Ooh.
You hit it?
Yeah. Oof.
You can hit it on any climb in the game ever. Doesn't matter how big or how
Oh
small.
my god.
There you go. Boom.
Oh, I think no.
Nope. That's not it.
I had that little teleport thing too.
If you land where I am,
fuck.
Tashin, then you did it.
There.
Manda just did it.
Hmm. No.
Yeah, but I can't do it on anything but B melee. Yeah, there.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't do it on my keyboard, unfortunately.
Maybe it's my keyboard. I don't know.
My keyboard is ghosting.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Which keyboard is
It's
that?
like-
The one you just got?
No, I didn't get mine yet. It's in custom still.
Yeah.
Motherfucker
Tell
say-
Tashin to try to jump then crouch. He's doing it wrong. No, you just do it at the same time, Tashin. Don't listen to these guys. Just slam space and see.
It depends. Depends on what keyboard you have too.
Well,
There's
everyone,
some keyboards. There's more delay on the space bar than there is on other things.
Everyone
So
I know
sometimes-
does it space and C at the same time.
Yeah.
So-
Why wouldn't you space in V though? Isn't that more
V?
nice for your hand?
V is by punch. No, it's harder. Why? You don't. Well, you press it
natural.
with. You press it with your thumb, both buttons.
Yeah. What else would you press it with?
I press C with my pointing finger, and space with my thumb.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I don't press it
What?
with one. It's harder to do it with one finger as well.
Dude, am I dumb?
Oh.
Because you could miss the timing. If you're doing it with one finger, you could miss the timing because you can't press them both at the same time always. But if you do it with two fingers, you can always press them at the same time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my keyboard is ghosting. Look, when I press more than 4 buttons, look, I just stand still.
What? When you press all four?
When I press more than 4 buttons, I stand still. You should be able to walk.
No. I'm pressing 5 buttons right now and I'm moving.
Yeah, you are moving or not moving?
Not moving. Look
Yeah,
at me.
normal.
I'm pressing WSD. I'm gonna press WSD and F. And I'm standing still.
I've tried for like 5 or 7 hours on mouse and keyboard. I can't do
WSD
it.
and F. I'm holding 5 buttons. And I'm standing still. And there, instantly hit super glide as I got on.
I don't know.
It's because you're
I've
doing it
tried-
wrong. You're doing it with one finger.
Dude, what do you mean wrong? I'm doing it with 2 right now.
Yeah, just strain with 2.
No, it doesn't work.
Look, I just
My
did it 3
keyboard's
times
wrong.
in a row.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My keyboard's bugged.
No, you just don't know the timing.
Dude, I just did it before.
Yeah, but if you do it once, doesn't mean you learn the timing instantly.
No,
It
but
took
I
me
can only do it on
fucking
my mouse.
weeks to fucking perfect timing to be able to do
Dude.
it all the time.
Dude, I'll try. I did it for 6 hours.
Doesn't matter.
In
I've
range.
done it for 40 hours
No,
before I could do
yeah,
it consistently.
I did it in the range for 6 hours. Didn't hit a single time. I put crouch on my mouse. I hit it instantly. I put crouch on my. I take the controller out. I hit it instantly. It's my keyboard thing.
But a
100%.
dog shit keyboard then. But don't you have the same keyboard as me?
No,
You have a GK64, don't you?
no. I
What
have
do you
a.
have?
What's it called? What's my keyboard? HMI my keyboard.
Fuck this, I'm out. Let's fight.
I have a Ducky X Varmillo Mia Pro
Why are you not using the GK?
because it got shit on. It was
What do
ass.
you mean? What?
I got
What do you
shit
mean?
on. My keyboard. I ruined it. A
How?
lot of the buttons didn't work and shit. I
How'd you do
smashed
that?
it.
Oh. Retard. Let's fucking fight this shit.
Yeah.
Go. Oh.
Oops.
You do it. And of course it doesn't work if you fucking smash it. That makes sense. Okay. You really think you're
No.
distracting me, right, Vander?
What?
You think you're distracting me. That shit, what you just did, I didn't even see it. I'm ready.
Go. Oh. Oha lan. Boom.
Ready?
Go. Where are my shots going? Where are my shots going? Where are my shots going? Where are they going? Arpor, where are they going?
Two of them went in me.
Go.
There you go. They're going into me.
Finally. Ready?
What's up, Ramos?
Go.
Dude, I can only see your wings. How am I supposed to hit
Wings
that
out.
shit? Ready?
Go.
Holy shit, you're hitting.
Finally. Ready?
RKG64, yeah. I don't know what an RKG64 is. I was GK64.
Nice.
Fuck. I don't know. The GK64 I have, I really like. I still like
Ready?
it. Yeah. I still like my GK64, but I'm gonna get a new one now from that custom one, and we'll see if it's as good. If it's not as good, obviously I'm not gonna use it. Fuck, man, you hit so
Los.
many shots backwards. Ready?
Ready?
Go.
Go.
Did you just jump from me? Fuck, man, you hit so many headshots. Oh shit, wrong character. My next keeper is gonna have Holy Pandas though. I'm looking forward to that.
I don't, dude, how long can shit be in customs? It's been in customs 4 days now.
I don't know, sometimes they keep it for 2 weeks in customs. I'm ready?
Dance
go.
game.
It really depends. Like, I had my shit in customs for 2+ weeks sometimes.
No. I have also custom keyboard. I still can't do it. Oh, I did it!
Nice.
Once! First try! Chad can prove.
I'm ready.
That was the only one though.
Are you ready?
Alright. Go. Oh, dude, I was about to.
I was about to hit the fucking super glider, but I whiffed it.
I'm gonna try it in fights now.
Ready?
Go. Zing!
Oh no. I couldn't dodge it, dude. I fucking hate that shit, man.
Oh, zing! Oh my god. How do I lose that?
I'm stuck
Right.
in a rock. Kill me. Yeah, hit me?
Joking, joking. Do triple headshot? Then die?
Finish me. Yeah, finish me.
Oh yeah.
Cringe. Changmo.
Dude, holy shit, what is that?
Hey, molding.
Is that K Sweeney or what?
Yeah. Alright, K Sweeney, I'll show you K Sweeney, bro.
The main advantage of running
Nice, dude.
win-win is that
Oh,
I like it.
Missed.
Come on, why are you shooting?
What are you doing? What is this shit? What is what is that, dude? What
Why are you
is this?
shooting me?
2v1, dude. I'm shooting at the floor. I'm not even aiming.
Damn, 2-1. Vintage. Simpage is vintage. Okay, thank you. I fucking jumped that thing. What is this?
I have no wingman shots.
No way, he's this fucking this guy. Dude. You can't punch the barrel? What? You can't punch the barrel? Since when?
Oh no!
Legit. My stomach hurts,
sauce.
bro.
Stomach hurts?
Yeah. 40 minutes left.
I'm not even.
And I feel bad. He's low HP.
Man, hipfire sucks.
Yeah, I'm holding hip fine too. Pretty good.
What is that shit? Fucking insta-headed you.
Oh, no shot. I have to cock it.
Where are you going, Shin? Where are you going?
I have to cock it, dude.
I got him, bro. I punched him. I'm happy. How was it lighter? What? What is that thing? Motherfucker plays for 200. I bubbled you? JK, bitch, my bubble. Teaming.
What the fuck? He had a body block, dude. What the fuck is going on? Which one is it? How is that a 20? What is this, dude?
No! No, he's wall hacking. He knows which I am.
what's going on, dude. I didn't hit. Fuck, I'm trying to hit a super glide. I bet man has been talking to us for a while now.
I just said, oh, I had some crazy shit. Can I ask you cosplay right now?
Yep, that
Guys,
one.
my drone's gone, my drone! Guys, 20-second drone cooldown! Go, 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 go back!
Guys, I don't have
Please,
drone.
please,
help.
please! Holy shit, dude! Oh my god! Woo! They're pushing, please! Bubble, bubble, bubble! Drop pads! No, drone's still not up, guys, please! I don't know where to go, I don't know where to go! I don't know, drone, I don't know where to go! Drone's up, guys!
Where is it? Where is it?
Where's he even?
Sitting on my iPad.
Hitting on my iPad.
Guys, I'm scanning. Oh no, drone's going! Guys,
He actually looks like
guys,
that.
guys, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. Please, please, please. Oh man, civilization tower? No, what? Come on, dude.
He saved the shot for me.
What is that? What are you behind?
Go, guys. I'm droning. Ulting. Please, please, push. Hit 50 on everyone. Pushing right now. Nice.
Got
Thank
one.
you for saving my ass, Shardell. Hey man. Oh my god.
Wait, that was a headshot. Holy shit. Oh! I'm hitting some nasties right now.
Scanning him?
Guys, I'm gonna scan. I'm EMPing his drone.
Oh no. The high ground is insane. Look at this guy, dude. Dude, I want that.
Mine! Rev main.
We both get it, man. Ah, we got third party.
Now he gets it, motherfucker.
I didn't get it. What is this? What is he doing? I saved it.
And I fucking click it. Oh my god.
Oh, I'm saving it. I got him on tool. This guy's doing it. He's doing it, Tashin.
Who will get it? Who will fucking get it? Open!
I got it! I fucking got it!
No! You fucking sticked it, motherfucker!
I stuck that shit. Man is muted, dude. Let's fucking
You're
go.
lucky. You're lucky, dude. Did you guys ever use that bug in the game where you could start a res?
I don't
midair?
exploit.
When,
not
when
like
the
you
game
in
just came
Taxi.
out. Did you guys use that bug or was it only me?
You in Taxi only.
You could fall back when the game came out. You could fall midair, like right here, boom, and pop up med, like the self res, and it would just stop you midair, and you could just self res mid there.
Oh, I think I watched a video from that.
No.
Damn, you guys got me good then.
Yo, relax.
I gotta pee. 2 sec. I have to pee.
Fucking Mr. T, dude.
Look, this is us three. You died jail in front of us. Look,
Which one is mine then?
Mandy's the right one. What is this?
Shit. And then he died. Look at it.
Look at this dude. Nice.
Took a picture of his ass.
Oh, I have that one.
I'm dead.
What else do I have?
What the fuck is she doing?
Gen over Gen.
I gotta go get water. Be right back. Again, what?
They're all good. I just want to make money with the same game. Nice. We get code soon. Wait, what?
Missing?
Dude, there's so much swerve. Look, I'm... Alright, so... Here I hit it. And now I put my... Now I put my mouse up in there. And I didn't move it at all. Holy shit.
Jump with me, jump with me.
Alright, I got you. Oh shit. Oh my god.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, 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 hey,
Alright,
hey,
great,
hey.
great, good.
Okay.
Teaming, teaming. I have this one here.
Oh my god. Yo. What do I have?
The
I have
brownies,
this
bro.
one. Oh wait, I got the surfer one. Forgive
Oh,
me,
look
dude.
look at this one, look at this one, dude.
I'm looking. Oh yeah, hey.
Hey.
Oh.
It remembers me
Okay.
of Overwatch a little bit, dude.
Oh no, I have this one.
That's OG. That's OG, man. Hey.
Let me go get third field of view, or third thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
The champagne. Hey, there. This game
Want a
looks so
bubble
weird
fight?
like this. Like this?
Yeah.
No. Got a mastiff?
No, you can only do it once. And then you have to do it again.
What do you mean?
You can do it twice.
I can't switch character?
No, if you die, if you get knocked and you switch, you're
Oh.
back to normal.
Oh. Someone said switch to Loba? Like, I'm gonna show you guys something. Have you seen the devotion
Oh,
thing
shit.
with Loba?
No.
You haven't?
No, I didn't.
Not a lot of people have.
I'm so dumb, dude. I want Loba. What am I doing?
Wait.
Wait, now drop everything. Okay, bro. Okay.
Wait.
What about the mold here? Loba.
Oh my god. My dude, my entire chat is booba. And then one guy, one more. One more. That's his only thing he wrote, dude. One more.
Wait.
Number one, you're like my number three.
My ass.
What are you doing, dude? You're us. Holy fuck, Hipfire is pretty good on Devotion.
Oh, dude, this game like this, and then you can build. Oh my god.
Can you get build?
Yeah, Fortnite
When I
style.
was building, Apex started.
Little rampart shield.
Oh, wait, does this still work? Wait. They don't do flatline. Did you know that if you ADS, what's it called? You ADS with ADS with flatline, and then you stop ADSing and hip firing, the first 5 bullets are on point, no matter what. Pretty crazy. It's pretty nuts. That's why you ever see people do that, like close range shit. It's pretty crazy.
Oh. Back. Hello.
What's up?
Hey.
You like me, like me, like me. Nice baby. About 7 minutes we'll get lobby.
Yeah, we're chilling. We're chilling.
20 minutes, we should get code soon.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
I'm eating ice cream.
Yeah. You eating an ice cream?
Yeah. It's ice cream
Nice.
time, baby.
Holy shit! It's trippy to see all the loot on the floor on Loba.
What are you guys doing?
I'm fucking Tashina 1-1.
Yeah. Rolled and smoked.
All me, dude.
Not too far, yo.
That gun is so fair, bro.
You got devotion?
Let's run triple devotion.
My God!
Sex with them.
Is that the Croatian?
Don't shake your ass too much. You can't hit them.
Oh shit!
It's rough to hit that shit, dude.
Shoto!
I hate looking up and shooting. It's one of my.
Thank you so much for the raid. Mwah. Thank you. Welcome everyone. Hope your stream was nice. I'm eating ice cream. I'm eating ice cream. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shadow. I appreciate you. We're about to play a tournament, so the stream will be restarted soon with 10-minute delay. I'm eating an ice cream, but in about 5 minutes the stream will be restarted with 10-minute delay because we're playing a tournament. We're trying to qualify for a LAN event, so appreciate you though. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone. Kiss for you, Shoto. I hope everyone had fun in Shoto's stream. And the Shoto stream was nice and fun. If you don't know me, I'm RPR, professional Apex player for Scars. These two dumbasses right here. Those are my teammates. We've been a pro team for like 3 years now, and I will be getting a live to these soon from La Mama. So I will be Vox's brother officially, and Folker's brother, I guess, and Ollie's brother. Today I leaked my teeth on Discord. I can show you guys. I licked my teeth. Here, I'll show you guys. Shit. What am I doing? There you go. Here's some teeth for you guys. We got teeth, in case you are wondering. We got bottom teeth as well. We got all of them. Yeah, I'm creation. But the rest of the design is gonna be a secret, because I want it to be a surprise. But it's really cool. I like it a lot. And I've gotten a lot of things done for the debut. We're getting our own little anime for lore by an individual that did work for One Piece, My Hero Academia, Fire Force, Boruto, Overlord, and backgrounds are being paid by a person that did work for Attack on Titan for the backgrounds. So we're doing a little like kind of shonen anime. It will be half motion comic done by Merryweather team from Merryweather, and then halfway through it will transition to a full-blown anime to finish it off. And I'm also doing a cover of a song, and art for that cover is being done by Neon Beat. But I'm not a good singer, so don't expect much. And later this year we will have a second outfit and an original song as well already planned. So there'll be a lot of things coming. But yeah, my debut will be around May, so it's still a while. Like about the 7th of May or 14th of May. It will be a weekend, so people can catch it. Good night, Michan. Until then, we're an Apex Pro, and we got a tournament to qualify. We got a big tournament to qualify too, so gotta do our best. There's 4 more days. We're doing pretty good. First 2 days were pretty decent, and now we have 4 more days. So some high intense pro gaming's gonna be on the channel for the next 4 days. So if it's not your thing, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you guys, I know a lot of you guys are probably Southeast Asian and Asian, so you know, don't ruin your sleep schedule. Go to bed. Go nana. Go nana. Sorry, destroyed them. Yeah, it's probably our fault. Oh. It's me, Pecora. No, I'm not from Dubrovnik, and I'm not gonna say where I'm from. I don't like the leaking where I live. All you need to know is that I live in Croatia. Rest is private. Arigato, Matake. The game you're playing is Apex. Fuck, why is it pushing me? Okay, I think the code might be out. Lobby's out. Code is up, boys. We are researching.
Good.
Alright. I'm gonna send it now. Alright, chat. I actually have to restart my stream. And I have to add.
Just resubscribed for 6 months.
He is 6 months.
Good
Welcome
luck
back.
today, boss. Selling for cheer, selling for cheer, selling for cheer. RPR love.
Thank you, appreciate you. Welcome back. Alright. 10-minute delay, chat. I will be restarting my stream. I'm sorry to all the host friends. We do have to restart our stream. However, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Bye bye. See you soon. 10 minutes.